Are you sitting comfortably? Then we'll begin.
Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of There's Still Time, the AFTN Soccer Show. Broadcasting on 101.9 FM, I am Michael McCall.
I'm Zachary Adamazar.
I'm Steve Pander.
Tonight's show is going to be packed with lots of Whitecaps chat, Canadian soccer chat, and a lot more besides. So we're going to kick things off in part one with just a little bit of a look at the Whitecaps news of the week. Snowmageddon 2020 has come and gone, unless you're listening to this show in Newfoundland, where I'm pretty sure you're feeling that we're a bunch of pussies out here in the West and call that snow, they're going to be saying? Probably not. But, I mean, it's been bad weather here. There's been bad weather in Australia, as we know. This bad weather around the world, is it the sign of the end of days? I'm not sure. But one thing that could be signalling that it could be the end of days is the Whitecaps have actually signed some players. I didn't see that coming. I thought we were just going to go with a bare bones squad. Have your bare bones of the 18. Everyone knows their role. No one's going to get injured for the whole year. No one's going to get suspended. Just go with those 18 guys, run them into the ground, like the good old days. We have signed some players. Not midfielders, of course, because that would kind of be too much to ask for. But we've got a left back. We've got a winger. We've got the most Christians, I think, at the Whitecaps since Martin Rennie's days. But let's talk about the first boy that's up.
That's not true.
A good young Canadian boy via Chile. 22-year-old left-back Christian Gutierrez. Acquired on a free transfer from Chilean Primera Division club Colo Colo. He's originally from Quebec. Moved to Santiago as a 3-year-old. Played 5 seasons in Chile and has represented them at youth level. He's another Canadian, like Lucas Cavallini, who has never actually played in Canada, domestically wise, as a professional. His twin brother, though, Diego has. He's with Valor FC, and there had been some rumours that Christian Gutierrez was going to join up with his brother Diego in Winnipeg, but no, he's come to Vancouver. With all the Adnan to Europe chat that's been going about, this is surely a chance for Guti to show his worth. Maybe stake a claim to the role if and when Ali moves on. And having a look at his highlights reel, he seems like a fast, attack-minded player. Nice delivery, pretty good shot on him. Didn't see a lot of defensive work in the highlights that they put out there, which is a little bit maybe concerning for a guy that is a left-back. But he had some crunching tackles going in and some good recovery tackles going in, so that was good. But it seems a very adequate kind of backup, a very serviceable backup as well.
Yeah, he's someone who is not super surprising to people in Vancouver. I can't remember going back how many months now, he has been someone that has been rumored or at least talked about in at least some of supporter speculator circles as someone who could be a fit for Vancouver with his obviously his connections to Canada. The thing that I said there that might be a little bit concerning when you look at his performances over the last 4 or 5 years is just the number of games he has played. He has not played a lot of games with the clubs he's been at, right? I think the average is like less than, he averages like 10 to 12 games a year, just doing some quick math, which is not a lot. So that's a little bit of a concern, even for someone his age. It's a bit of a concern, and so you hope that he will be able to make a contribution to the Whitecaps in a positive way. Again, the big question, which people have been talking about, is what is Ali Adnan's long-term future? Will he be here short-term? Will he be here long-term? And what role does Gutierrez maybe play in filling that?
I mean, he definitely seems like he's here to kind of stake a claim to possibly taking over from Ali when Ali does inevitably move on, which I don't think is going to be just now. I mean, it could possibly be into the summer. But I mean, he looks good from what we've seen from the highlight reels. He does seem to be a guy that likes to get forward, and we know that Mark DeSantis likes that from his fullback. So interested to see what he's going to be like in a game. He can play other roles as well. So, I mean, we could even see him play a little bit on the left wing if needed. Gutierrez was the first signing of the week. Then on Friday, we got the long-anticipated announcement that Christian Dahomey was a Whitecap. An exciting winger that can cause terror on both flanks and actually score, which is always a plus. Seems a bit more consistent than the wingers we had maybe brought in last year. Signed for basically a free transfer, although a small fee was given to his youth club Bogota FC as they held his rights. Not the Sud-American champs Atlético Nacional, because of the weird South American setup that there's lots of third-party ownership, and in this case it looks like the youth club is the guy that actually owned him. But it doesn't seem to have been a big fee, and it is nice anyway to reward the youth club that's maybe developed him and brought him on, something I wish we would do a lot more of here in North America. And I mean, he looks again like he could be a really good addition to the team. We've talked about him a little bit before in previous shows. He's performed at a high level. He wants the stability that Vancouver and MLS can offer him and his family for the next couple of years, because there was the rumours that Corinthians and Brazil were interested in him. It looks like Vancouver, reading between the lines, were offering him a 2-year contract, whereas Brazil was possibly just offering him a 1-year one. So that's given him a little bit more stability. But as anyone that knows the MLS transfer system, I don't really know how much you can say that any MLS contract is a stable contract, because players can be cut, transferred, anything at any notice. But he does look exciting. He looks like a guy that is going to provide a lot. Again, if you watch his highlight reel, he looks like a guy that's going to be whipping in these crosses for hopefully Lucas Cavallini to finish and get quite a few finishes off his own.
Yeah, again, like we talked about last week, it's a kind of bit of a hopeful time for Vancouver, and this is another symbol of that, or another sign of that, is a winger who can play both sides and has some quality attacking abilities. It's also nice when you see, if you're a fan of the Whitecaps, to see them win out, over someone else, so whether or not things were where things are at with Corinthians and whether or not they could actually stake a claim to him or get him or whatever, it's nice to see Vancouver win out on someone, because you hear and you see, and the Whitecaps front office have told you in the past on players they've lost out on. So it's nice to see them kind of get someone with some this kind of upside. It'll be interesting to see where he fits in. I think there's been talk of, I think I heard Schuster talking about how we are going to play 4-3-3, and so they're going to need some wingers, and it sounds like he'll be crucial to what they're looking to do.
Yeah, I mean 4-3-3 I think is probably going to be the main formation that they decide to go with this season. There could be a little bit of tinkering along the way. We ran an article during the week from Joe Deasy. I can't remember, he said it was 9 different formations the Whitecaps used in 2019, which is crazy, because if you were trying to list off formations, you'd be getting to 5 or 6 fairly easily. Then you'd have to be stopping and thinking, well, is there this one? What about this one? So I think 4-3-3 is going to be the more stability. Dahomey's clearly going to be a starter. We know if it's 4-3-3 that 2 of those starters look set to be Cavallini and Dahomey. We're going to look in the next part about some gaps that the Whitecaps clearly have in their squad just now, just in general, but in their starting lineup in particular. I mean, there's some places that we really need to fill. Now, Dahomey for me is interesting because it was announced he's a TAM player, and Corinthians had reportedly offered $2.3 million to kind of bring him there. we don't even know if TAM's going to exist after the next CBA is sorted. So, I mean, Whitecaps have pulled the gun on that, maybe confident that they know that no matter what happens, something can happen. Maybe clubs have been told, look, if you've got TAM players and we change this, you're not going to be out of pocket. We're going to make sure that things work.
Or they used all their TAM because they knew they'll probably give a 1 year leeway or whatever. I'm assuming they would give 1 year.
Yeah, because it's going to be too big a nightmare to try and change
to figure this out.
Things over, you would think. But, I mean, if that was the kind of figures that we're talking about down in Brazil, I mean, a guy like this in the past would normally have been probably a DP here in Vancouver.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that's all going to be interesting. So we've added 2 new players. But as we add, we have to subtract. And it was announced that club captain, I'd like to stress that. Well,
was it a lot of games? Or?
I know folk have talked about Johnny Reese being club captain, but Mark DeSantis did say at the start of the season he was club captain basically by default because he had to name one. And if it had went up to MDS, he wasn't going to name one at all. And he was the most experienced, and it did. He ticked all the boxes with his experience and everything like that. But I mean, we've talked about it for months. We didn't expect him that he was going to be back. It was revealed that Arise had been chatting to the club via WhatsApp, and they'd all agreed to kind of mutually part ways. No big surprise, he's going back to Spain. It is disappointing, though, that it didn't work out, as he looked to have good potential. He looked to be, when he was brought in, the number 6 that we were needing. But then it just turned out, and we won't batter this to death as we've talked about it so much, that MLS was just not the league for him. A talented guy, wrong league.
Well, yeah, a lot of experience, but lack of experience in traveling, for sure. And that's what did him in. I think he just wasn't used to all the travel, and it wore on him as a season. Also, I think he wasn't used to the speed.
Yeah.
He probably didn't have enough time on the ball to figure out what he wanted to do.
Yeah, I agree. The pace of play, the freneticness of MLS, and the way it's kind of lots of people refer to it as an athletic league, right? It's this frenetic trying to close down space, people running at you very quickly, whereas in Spain it's more methodical, and he had more time on the ball there, and he did not have that there, and his lack of either speed of thought or just his physical speed, or the two combined, were really let him down this year. And
I think you have to be like a Perlow type in order to be I'm using quotation marks, that's slow, and still be able to handle MLS.
That's an interesting way to look at it.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a lot more additions to come. For that we know, because there's certainly some gaps in the squad. And we're going to look in part 3 at the pre-season roster that's been announced. And right now, 18 signed first-team players are going to be in that pre-season camp. So there's still a lot of places to fill. Some players are in, some players will still be going out, yet you have to fill as well. And we're going to be back chatting with a player that is most certainly going to be here next season, Lucas Cavallini, and we'll be back with that after this.
Hi, I'm Mark Dos Santos, and you're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
In the corner of my eye, her arms are clutching, saving slowly time. Ask away just to cover up. All the people tell her how to live, but she lives so much that she can't give. She starts crying in public places. She starts hiding familiar faces.
Welcome back. That was our Artist of the Month for January, German band Grrr. I just like saying that. That's the main reason I picked them. Well, plus that, and their songs are fantastic. That was She Says from the album of the same name, released in 2019. check them out. We've got one more song to come from them next week. And that's Gurr, G-U-R-R. Not the way that I'm going, grrr. Anyway, there's a lot of coming and going this off-season. Most of the additions so far have seemingly come kind of off the pitch, or the key ones. But one of the key players on the pitch is clearly going to be new striker, designated player, Lucas Cavallini. Now, Lucas, coming into the Whitecaps, big money signing. There might be pressure on him right off the gate. If you speak to him, though, he kind of brushes that off. He doesn't feel that there's too much pressure on him. He's obviously going to still need to get a lot of help to put the ball in the back of the net from the midfield, the wingers as well. But he's a confident guy, and Steve, he's in really good form right now, coming to the Whitecaps internationally at club level as well. We seem to be getting him at a perfect time.
Yeah, and I know you said that we need help. He needs help in the midfield. That's for sure, especially in the middle of the midfield. But the wingers are kind of lining up right now. So the wide area play is lining up. It's the midfield that needs help. But he's the kind of guy that, like you said, he doesn't need. He's confident. He's got the confidence that a striker needs. You don't want a striker without confidence. That's the worst scenario you can have. So it's good that he has the confidence. It's good he feels there's no pressure, because he can come in and do the job.
Yeah, and he's well travelled. He's played for some big teams. Penarol, Nacional in Uruguay, two big sides. Puebla, maybe not one of the biggest sides in Mexico, but I mean, he's used to these hotbed environments and everything like that as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how he kind of adapts to MLS.
And it's funny, though, the people they're bringing in, they're bringing in, a lot of people say, they're bringing in Canadians, but they're bringing in Canadians that have had extensive training in South America, like Christian Gutierrez, extensive training. Obviously, he moved at 3, but even Cavallini, I think it's 15, 16, that's when he moved down to Uruguay. So
are we too Canadian? Do we hate America? Because we only have Jake Nerwinski as, I think, the sole American on the squad.
I don't see that as being a bad thing.
No. But Lucas Cavallini is definitely one of the players to watch this year. Got a chance to speak with him on Saturday afternoon. The players were all back at pre-season training on Saturday. Saturday was doing all their medicals and physicals and stuff like that. So I got a chance to speak to him on the phone. I wanted to talk not so much about him coming to MLS, but just about his journey in getting here, and what it was like going to South America at an early age and playing all the games there. So sit back, grab a chocolate digestive and your favourite hot beverage, and enjoy Lucas Cavallini. So, first thing really to ask you, Lucas, it's been a bit of a whirlwind, I guess, the last month or so. How was your Christmas? Was it a case of like working on what you had to get and moving here and getting everything sorted out?
Yeah, well, obviously I had a good vacation. I enjoyed it. Like any vacation, you try to just get your normal life on a rest. So yeah, obviously with the family and all, we enjoyed Christmas and all that. My break was well, and here, Vancouver, they take care of everything for you. So obviously, I had people who tried to help me as most as they could, and yeah, so just so everything would be easier to come into training session, have everything already arranged for me. So yeah, I'm comfortable. I was comfortable with how they handled things for me, so I could have enjoyed my vacation even better.
I mean, you've been away from Canada since, was it 16, 18 that you went down to South America?
Yeah, 16 years old.
Is it a bit weird being back now living in the country?
Yeah, it's kind of, yeah, obviously, of course, I'm not used to living here in my homeland, and, it's different, obviously, different experiences, and then coming back home and living back to what I lived before. So it's kind of weird, but I'm happy to be here.
Now, I was reading just a little bit about your family. So I know that your dad's from Argentina. So I mean, coming with an Argentinian dad, it's like football was obviously going to be the sport that you were going to follow. What was it like? Like when you were playing in Canada as a kid? What was it like in the youth setup here? Was being a footballer what you always wanted to do?
Of course, of course. You know, in my household, football was the most popular, right? Every TV I had in my house had soccer on it. So obviously, obviously, from my dad being from Argentina, of course, he motivated us to play football. So yeah, that didn't stop me. Even though we lived in Canada, where Canada back in the day, you didn't have that much opportunities to become a professional soccer player. So obviously, I knew I had to go abroad in order to chase my dreams. So I never stopped. And obviously, as a youth in Canada, I just stuck with it. Trained as hard as I could and tried to get as better as I could, just in order to be able to have a good tryout down south. And well, that's where everything started.
How did you end up in Uruguay? I mean, you'd think Argentina would be the place you'd maybe have ended up. So what took you to Uruguay in the end?
In the youth system in Canada, we had professional coaches, well, ex-pros that played in Uruguay, obviously in Argentina as well. But just because of Uruguay being a smaller country, and I guess at the time security was a big problem in Argentina. My dad thought it was better for me to, since I was young, 16 years old, leaving home by myself. It was a better decision to go down to Uruguay. And yeah, obviously one of my coaches had a lot of contacts there, and he was able to get me a chance to try out for Nacional in Montevideo. And from then on, I was on a good path, and that's where everything started for me, and it was a dream come true,
Yeah, and like being at Nacional, and then I know you left there and you went to Phoenix, but then you ended up at Penarol, which is like obviously the big rivals of Nacional. And like as me coming from Scotland, I kind of equate that if someone played with Celtic and then went to play for Rangers, I just know what kind of hostility that they would get in the city. Did you have anything like that when you ended up playing with Penarol from the Nacional supporters?
Yeah, of course. Obviously, you have to go through that. It's not easy, but at the end of the day, I didn't have any problems at all. Obviously, once in a while on the streets, you get cursed or something from the other fans, traitor, stuff like that. But, you do anything for football, anything to be in a better place, try and keep climbing stairs. So, I knew Peñarol was even a bigger step for me. And in order to go abroad, to leave Uruguay eventually and even have a better career.
Now, I mean, Uruguay is obviously a hotbed of football, and then you ended up going to another hotbed of football in Mexico as well. Was making a move to Mexico something that you always wanted to try, or how did you ending up at Puebla?
As any professional soccer player, anybody wants to play in Europe eventually, But at the time, it wasn't the case. I got a chance to go to Mexico. It was something that not that I didn't expect to happen, but sometimes you can't plan your own life. And when I got to Mexico, it was I didn't expect it to be as great. Obviously, the Mexican League is something really competitive. Fans are really passionate, and it's like a mini Europe. Obviously, there's a lot of talented players that play from around the world there. So it's a good experience to play Mexico. And I was happy. I was happy with my decision, and it's brought me where I am now.
Yeah, no, I won't ask you about the move to MLS because you talked a lot about that when you had the press conference. But the season's coming up now. The Whitecaps are building their team, and they've just added a home as the winger. Hopefully that's going to be creating for you. I mean, what are you kind of hoping for this season? Do you see yourself like having extra pressure on you because you're coming in as a Canadian and coming in as a big money signing?
No, not at all. It's not a matter of feeling pressure. It's just a matter of being happy, feeling comfortable where I am, Obviously having being Canadian, playing on a Canadian team, all this hype towards me, it makes me anxious and looking forward to start the season. Obviously we're doing what we love. We're playing football. They're paying us to play football. Like who gets that opportunity in life to get paid of what you love to do? So I don't really call it pressure. Pressure is more what you call waking up at 5 a.m, doing something you don't want to do, but you have to provide for your family, and you have to be able to work your ass off all day. Sorry for my language, but
Oh, that's fine.
but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
No pressure at all.
And I don't speak any Spanish, but I was they had tweeted out some video of you talking about how you kind of think of like a kind of Latin America mentality, I think was what the translation said from the video the other day. And obviously in MLS, a lot of the most successful players are kind of Latin American players, people from South America. There's been a lot of good talent that's done well in MLS. So do you feel your game is kind of like ideally suited to what MLS is right now?
Well, I was young when I went to South America, so you can say that I have sort of a Latin American mentality, when it comes to football. So, no, I don't think I'll change my mentality now. I'm willing to bring what I've learned to the MLS and obviously make it a better place, make it a better league, just as all the Latin American players are doing coming to this league, Carlos Vela, Joseph Martinez, all based Latin American players, so they're shaping up the league to be something great. So it's something that I learned, and I'm willing to bring it to my club.
I know that Mark and Axel had mentioned that you had been kind of just dealing with a couple of injuries and they weren't really sure whether you'd be fully training this coming week or not. How are you feeling physically just now?
No, I'm good. I'm ready to start training. I'm going to incorporate with the team right away. So obviously, I'm feeling 100% right now, and I'm looking forward to starting the season.
Thanks so much for your time, Lucas. Looking forward to seeing you in action, and I'll probably chat with you next week as well when you're at training.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Lucas. Bye.
Take care.
Lucas Cavallini there. Really enjoyed chatting with him. My favourite interview of the year.
Speaking of favourite interviews, last week's episode, the podcast, you did a couple interviews. Which was your favourite on that episode?
Ryan Raposo. I know you want me to say you, but no. I can't. Like, people say they can't choose between their favourite child. That's how I look at you and Steve. It's like it's impossible to decide who's my favourite.
Thanks, Dad.
Yeah. If someone put a gun to my head, I mean, clearly Zach. But for the sake of fairness, let's just say I love you both equally. Anyway, Lucas Cavallini, talking about going over to South America at such an early age. Now, he's 16 when he went, and I don't think, no matter how confident you are at yourself at that age, it's such a big thing to do. And it's like, it must have been so difficult for him going there as a Canadian to try and win over the locals and the coaches and everything. But he did it. And it just shows you he wanted to be a footballer no matter what, and no matter what it took, and you've got to admire him for that.
And the thing is I don't think that he was probably welcomed that greatly initially. I think he's mentioned on other interviews too that it was a rough going. They were all jammed up into one small room, which is typical, I think, of most academies there in South America.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's nice to hear him share about I'm not trying to suck up to you, Dad, but I enjoyed some of the questions you asked there, just being different from the ones he's been asked so far. And it's great to hear him talk about his experience and what it was like to, all that he had to do to make it in the game of football. And yet you can hear that he just has this deep desire to play at the highest level that he can. Which some might question why he's come to MLS. But seeing as he's come to MLS, you think he's going to bring that same determinism, that same drive to excel, that same drive to succeed. And that's got to be exciting.
Yeah, he's certainly a very driven man. And, I mean, he talked there that ultimately he had hoped to make a move to Europe. It wasn't happening, so that's when he ended up going to Mexico. And he loved his time in Mexico. I'd said to him at the start, I was just going to keep him for 10 minutes, and usually my 10 minutes ends up as 20 minutes. But in this case, I wanted to stick to it. And I wanted to ask him a little bit more just about what it was like going over as a young player, as a 16-year-old. But he has talked about it in some previous interviews, so I decided not to do that. But we maybe talk about that at future time with him. But I did ask him about the expectations and the kind of the pressure that might be on him. And as we talked about in the introduction to that, he doesn't feel it. But I mean, what are your expectations of him right now, considering he doesn't have much of a midfield or wingers really to go with, assuming that all these pieces are in place? Is he the guy that's going to... We talked a little bit about it when he was announced. Are you expecting him in double digits? Are you expecting him in high double digits?
I definitely expect him in double digits. Obviously, 10 would be the smallest of those double digits, but I expect more. I'm hoping, and there's not expectation on him, but I'm hoping he can hit 15. That would be my minimum that my hope would be. I'm hoping, and then on top of that, if he gets like 2 or 3 above that, that'd be excellent. And that's assuming that all the pieces are in place, like you said.
No, yeah. I mean, based on where things are right now, Michael, you have to hope that he's going to finish on potentially the limited service he'll receive and also create a number of goals himself. I would agree that, he has to hit double digits no matter what. It doesn't matter how many penalties he takes or doesn't take or how bad the service is. He's got to hit double digits on this team. You also have to be thinking about this in the respect of, or at least somewhat thinking about this in the perspective of what they've invested previously and what they've gotten out of that. So when you look at the Colombian who came in and got 13 goals or whatever it was, and, his salary was like 1.77 or 1.7 something or whatever. You look at Kai Kamara after that. They brought in Kai Kamara, paid him less than $1 million, if my memory serves me correctly, and got 15, I think it was, out of him. So, you got to think that there are at least some people at the Whitecaps who are thinking he's got to be 15 to 20 on the season. Obviously, it's an unfinished jigsaw puzzle, and so we're only looking at part of the picture. Once that gets filled in more, you hope that those numbers the expectation of those numbers would even go higher.
I'm hoping for 15 to 18. I think anything less than 15 in a normal season where he's fully fit and he's playing all the games, I think that would be disappointing for a big DP coming in. But I'm just fascinated to see how he's going to link up with some of the other pieces, like with Reina and Dahomey. And I mean, talking to Dahomey, if you're referring to the Colombian, you're going to have to clarify between Colombian 1 and Colombian 2, possibly.
Is the Colombian and Dahomey?
Oh, never going to change on Freddie. Poor Freddie. We'll talk a little bit about Freddie, though, in the next part when we're looking at pre-season camp. But, I mean, a lot of questions for Lucas Cavallini. A lot of people want to know stuff about him. But I think the most pressing question that anyone could ask him as a Whitecap is, does he fancy a chocolate digestive?
Anyone fancy a chocolate digestive, even though it's unsuggested? Anyone fancy a chocolate digestive?
If you're sitting at home and you decide to have a hot beverage, would you go for a tea, a coffee, or something else?
An espresso, for sure.
I thought you might have gone for the yerba mate, because all the South Americans that we've had have been drinking that. So.
No, that's for sure. But then change my answer to mate, please.
Oh, will do. And are you a biscuits fan, a cookies fan?
Yeah.
What's your favourite kind of cookie?
Chocolate chip, probably.
And are you a dunker?
Yes, I do, but not in my mate, in my milk.
Anyone fancy a chocolate digestive? Anyone fancy fancy a chocolate digestive? Anyone fancy a chocolate digestive, even though it's unsuggestive? Anyone fancy a chocolate digestive?
Another that is going for chocolate chip cookies. Whichever Whitecap comes in this season and picks chocolate digestive, he's going to be my favourite play for the year.
I think you're required to carry around hopefully a non-melted packet of chocolate digestive.
Oh, you can award that as an award if they do pick it.
Ooh. Yeah, like when I'm asking the guys that don't speak English, I'll just hold it up and they can go.
Might help.
So the Whitecaps starting 11 coming into this season. There's holes, to say the least.
Good movie.
Yeah. Oh, who was that?
Shia
M. Night
LaBeouf. It's on Disney Plus. You should watch it.
Holes?
Yeah.
How young are you?
He was in his starting ages.
Was that M. Night Shyamalan?
No.
What am I thinking about then?
I have no idea.
His
He is like The Happening or I don't know, stuff like that.
his movies had lots of holes in them, and maybe that's exactly what I'm thinking. So the Whitecaps starting 11. Let's kind of look at who we've got. So we know we've got Max Rapo as the goalkeeper.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, Jake Nerwinski, Ali Adnan are
Fullbacks.
the two fullbacks. Your centre backs. We're only just now, because we haven't signed Godoy yet, although that's close to coming over the line. So let's count Godoy.
Okay.
So you've got Godoy, Kamiri, Cornelius,
Didic.
maybe. We'll talk about Didic in the next part. If you're looking at Godoy, Kamiri and Cornelius, from those three, who are your two starters?
I got obviously Godoy would be one, and based on hairstyle, I'd probably have to go to Kamiri.
Oh yeah, are you joking? That's a joke, right? You're just trying to get a rise in me?
Yes, I'm trying to get a rise.
Yeah, okay. He's got those are hair extensions or something.
I think he lost a bet.
I hope so. I don't mind that
Or his life is in danger, and he needs to wear this hairstyle.
I don't mind that kind of hair when it's real. When it's fake, I think it's awful.
Maybe they celebrate Halloween at a different time in his country.
But I hope his football is better. Is better than his choice of hairstyles, and I mean that in as least a disrespectful way as possible. I actually think Cornelius is probably going to begin the season.
So do I.
With Godoy,
Because they played together a lot.
yeah.
I think they want to still ease in Kamiri.
unless Kamiri has some plays out of his skin or out of his
Hair?
out of his extensions in the preseason.
I agree on all those things, especially the hair aspect. His hair last year was so luscious. It was just wonderful. It's so disappointing. But the only kind of wild card could be we could see Godoy as right back and then go with Cornelius and Kamiri. So, I mean, that could still be an option.
I don't see that happening because if they're going to spend that much money on him, I see they needing him to be at centre back.
Now, the rest of the team, the attacking midfield options.
Can we skip the midfield and just go to the wingers for now? We'll come to the midfield
So
afterwards.
wingers, right now, you're looking at Raposo, Dahomey on either wing,
Reina.
potentially. But would you play Reina as a winger, though?
If you're playing with only one striker up top, yes. Unless you have to force to play
Because
in the
I'm
middle.
thinking midfield of having Reina,
Behind?
Wong and Andy Rose or Tybert are your options
Well,
right now.
right
with
now,
your signs.
yes, yeah. But
I think it's. I hear you in theory, Steve, that having Reina wide, but I just think of all those times when he was playing wide, and we were just like, it's not the best for him.
Yeah,
like
it's just-
even when he did make contributions, I think we would say, yeah, he scored a goal or he set this up, but for the flow and the play of the team and the build-up of the team, this is not the best spot for him. And so with the I know that things are very, very limited now, especially in central midfield. But I think if you were to put out your best preseason squad right now to play a friendly, I would probably want Lucas in the middle. You want Dahomey on one side, you want Raposo on the other side, and then in midfield you go Inbom Wong and Reina, kind of the attacking one, and Inbom sitting back with probably Russell Tybert.
I don't. The thing about the Reina though is if you put him on the left side, Ali Adnan's going to be moving up the pitch a lot. So why not at that point when the attack is going on, then Reina cuts into the middle and that's where he can provide service. But you still have him wide during the build-up of play.
Yeah, okay, that's better. So
Yeah.
so like on the pre-game formation that you put over people, he's lined up as the left winger, but in actual playing,
In attacking play, he's going to the wing.
he's really always kind of tucked in and or central because of what Ali's doing. That makes sense.
Yeah.
That reminds me of like back in the day talking to like Michael Nanchoff about Caleb Porter at what was a school called Akron. He said they would not play with a right winger.
Yeah.
They would just everything was so tilted towards the whole left side of the field because they were so good there.
Yeah.
I mean, the right side, you have to think like Axel's keen to bring in a right winger.
It seems like.
Yeah, because I mean, you've got the homie on the left, so a right winger is definitely something I think that they need to try and figure out. We also need a 6 and an 8. That's kind of fairly obvious right now. We need a 10 in one regard, but if we're playing 4-3-3, I don't think we do need a 10. And we've never really had any luck in bringing 10s here.
No.
I think this is going to be a season that we are going 4-3-3, and there's not really going to be a 10. So a 6 and an 8, because I think you'll have 6 and 2 8s as that midfield.
Yeah, but the other 8 that you bring to play alongside in Baum would be nice if he had 10 tendencies.
Yeah, but it's just Reina, really. So, I mean, if you've got Reina and then Baum as your 2 8s.
But my only problem with Reina is how much does he control the midfield? He's more of an attacker. That's why I would like somebody that can be an 8, but actually kind of move up and play like a 10 sometimes.
Sorry, just going back to, I also want to give a shout out to your favorite named Whitecap, Toss, because I think he can play on the wing fine. So you might see Dahome on one side and Toss on the other side. Because of his pace, because of his experience in the league, and because of his ability to play there and to cut inside or be that like second kind of bigger, powerful forward.
Yeah, that's true. And there's also Theo Bair as well that you could play out in the wing. I was completely forgetting about them. And just scored for Canada in form. It was a goal I think I could have put away. But still, he scored. A goal's a goal. That's all that counts. Now, Schuster said he hopes to have news on the midfield front this week, or one player, at least anyway, which, I don't know, I'm hoping might be a 6. The transfer window, and in particular the intra-MLS transfers, can take place until February 13th, which isn't great, because it's like 2 weeks really before the season starts. But it could be pointing that MDS wanted to add MLS experience, and he hasn't done that so far in anyone that's been brought in. So it could be that they're waiting to fill these midfield positions with those pieces.
Yeah, as other teams bring in new players, they're going to have surplus of their previously that were starters on their team that they might need to give up because of salary cap reasons. So that's where they could take advantage and get somebody who's obviously been training the whole time, but actually kind of shows up at the last minute. Yeah,
and we've talked about, I think you've talked about this before, Michael, in the past. This is one of the frustrating things about how they've gone about communicating at different times and in different ways. So beyond the commitment to season ticket holders to do stuff by January 30th, you had Mark DeSantos and I believe also Axel Schuster saying that they were going to have all the players in by today, by the 20th of January to be here for the beginning of camp. And now it's like, we might get one more this week, and that will bring the actual roster up to like whatever 21 or whatever it is, which is extremely deficient. So that's really frustrating. Obviously, there are constraints to that. There are rules to that. There are all kinds of factors to that. I just wish they wouldn't have said stuff like that. Those two individuals. Other people said other things. I don't know why they would have chose the January 30th date, but they had their reasons. It'll be interesting to see what happens. One of the things about those comments from the executives in the past was they told supporters in a meeting, they said this. They said, we would tell you who we're going to bring in, but you wouldn't believe us. And it's January 20th. And I don't think there's anyone they brought on the playing side or on the off-field side that anyone would say, wow, we can't believe who you've brought in. And so, again, kind of more disappointment from people who are famous for their disappointments.
For me, although it's nowhere near ideal, you want to have guys that's going to be deemed as your starters in place before they go and play the really kind of meaningful friendlies, if there's such a thing, when they go down to the Portland tournament.
One is the more
So you
important.
want to have, I mean, if the MLS window and everything opens on the 13th, You've got 4 days to fill it before the first game in Portland. You want to have those guys there ready to go in Portland, get the chemistry going, get the understanding going. You've got 3 games in Portland and you've got a week when you get back to get ready for the season. So we'll see what happens. It's not ideal. Training camp, as I mentioned, got underway on Saturday. The on-pitch action takes place on Monday, which is when most folk will be listening to this episode of the show. The roster's been announced, and we're going to look at that after this.
Hi, I'm Lucas Cavallini. You're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
I've seen it all before. 40 years ago at the height of your career, and you know you lied. You took my mother and my brother and my sister and my lover. Don't you know you fools? With your understand reminiscing for your father grade, you're so debased. I can see you too. I'm not a violent person making section for you. Can't you see it all falling into place by the shine in their eyes and the smiles on their face? Take a look around and there's not a trace. It could be me or you, face to face. I don't know if already all begun, but now it's all gone. Didn't last long. Those are the days when you couldn't go wrong, but they're back again. Here they come.
Welcome back to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio. That was the Cigarettes with They're Back Again, Here They Come. Because guess who's back? Back again. Not Slim Shady. The Whitecaps are back. Pre-season training. The pre-season roster was released today. Attending the camp this week in Vancouver will be 18 signed first-teamers. The homie is going to join up in San Diego. He's still got all his things to sort out visa-wise and green cards and all that kind of stuff. There's 3 development squad players going to be in the camp as well. Gianfranco Fascineri and Patrick Metcalf are 2 of those. Now that's a big change from a year ago and what MDS wanted, where at this stage of the camp, everyone felt like they were one of the young guys, but this year is a lot different, and I think that's good, and it just shows that things are going to be very different in pre-season this year.
But I do like the ones that they brought in. I really like Gianfranco. He really showed a lot last year, and I think he can show something where he probably, I think by the end of the year, if they have slots open, they will sign him to a contract. But I do like the fact that they're not forcing these young players to come in. Like they're not desperate to have him in. They're actually, these guys deserve to be in the lineup.
Quick question for you. You mentioned 18 first-team players. The other one, because there's 20 listed on the website, is what's his name over at PSV, right?
Simon Cullen.
Well, yeah, but also Eric Godoy is still listed on the website.
Oh, right.
Now, the Eric Godoy situation, it had been announced it was a done deal. From what I've heard, though, and my understanding is that the Caps are still working on some little bits of it, but he is expected to join up with.
It's probably a TAM issue too. It's probably
it could be maybe visa stuff as well.
Oh yeah,
but Simon's not here, right?
No,
not as far as I know. No, it looks like he may be staying a little bit longer with PSV. Now, despite some internet chatter, Freddie Montero is in camp. Yep, his Instagram had him in his coffee shop today, but it is a Sunday. It's his day off, and his church is down in Seattle, so he's probably down for that and helping out at the coffee shop. He is going to be in camp this week. Freddie is ready, is the word on the street. But of course, this is MLS, and we know that moves can happen at any point. And we talked in the last part that the inter-MLS moves aren't kicking off really until mid-February. I'm pleased to see him back. Hard to see where he's going to slot in. Hard to see him maybe being here by first kick, or if he is, too much beyond that.
But he does have a 2-year contract. Oh, 1 year left now.
Yeah, he has a 1-year contract.
So we have to change the hashtag then.
Now, there's 5 trialists in the camp as well right now.
Which is another thing that's new. They don't...
well, we've had a few over the years.
But not that many.
No, most of them haven't
recent.
worked out. We were chatting about this on Twitter tonight, and someone said, have any of the trialists ever worked out? Camilo came
kind of
in
worked
2011.
out. Yeah, he worked out.
In parts, he worked out. the on the pitch parts were good. The end of it, not so much. But he came in 2011 as a trialist. He played down in the Seattle tournament as a trialist, and he worked out really well. But
Thiago Ulysses didn't. Well, no, he wasn't even a trialist. They actually signed him, didn't they? Yeah.
I mean, we've had some guys, Robo had some guys down in Hawaii and things that just didn't work out. And we're going to look at 4 of the 5 trialists just in the next little bit. And we don't want to pump their tyres too much because we have seen a lot of these guys not work out. But there's a few of these guys that's in the camp that are actually, it's a little bit exciting. It feels a little bit different than some of the other years where you saw them and you're like, yeah, I don't think they're going to improve the squad that much. But as we'll talk about in a sec, there's a few of these guys that you're like, oh, interesting.
Yeah, there's definitely a couple interesting guys in here that you see potential in, and that more so than that, I think that you hope that they get signed. We're going to start at the goalkeeper position, work our way forward?
Yeah, why don't we do that? And the goalkeeper that's a trialist is, and Steve chatted about him in last week's show, Daniel Gagliardi. He's the second round draft pick, so they're having a look at him still to see exactly what is happening. One of the actual development guys that we didn't mention, we mentioned 2 of them. The third one is a goalkeeper as well, Bomer, who I don't really know very much about at all. It's like, so I mean,
he might have been just kind of came on the map or something. Maybe he was with a local club or something like that.
First up of the guys though that we're going to look into is a guy that back in December 2018, I said MDS should pick up in the waiver drafts that were doing the rounds at the time. 25-year-old, he is now, Canadian, centre-back, Amar Didic. A player that MDS knows well from his time at Swope Park and down in KC. He had a stellar CPL season with Edmonton, got his first national team call-ups and recently his first caps where he looked good. But I think he was playing alongside Derek Cornelius in the games. But he looked good there, didn't look out of place. There's no guarantee the Caps are going to sign him, although Dwayne Rollins did tweet out today that from everything that he's heard, it looks like the Caps will be announcing him as an actual signing. Okay. Although there has been some
It's gone
debate.
Back and forth.
There's been debate as to whether he's a free agent, whether he is going to be a signing or what's going to happen.
The final word I saw from Dwayne was that he's moving up. That was the final wording on what he's moving up to the Whitecaps. There's no mention of a sale or anything like that or a free agent. It's just moving up at this point. So there's no confirmation there at all.
But it was going to be a good addition. I did want him, as I said, about a year ago. And I think even since what I'd seen from him back then, he has come on so much in CPL this season.
Yeah, he's one of the top center backs from the Canadian Premier League's inaugural season, alongside someone like Dominic Zator, who apparently there's no interest in, I think, in Vancouver, depending on who you talk to. Whether or not this is an actual transfer or whether he signed on a free is a really interesting thing. If Vancouver gets him on a free, this is some very, very, very poor decision making by Edmonton. A lot of players in CPL were on 1-year contracts, but this was a player coming in who had like a proven track record and
should have been signed to a multi-year deal.
Had played at higher layers. This was like, even if you had a philosophy of only 1-year contracts, you should have. This is one you should have said no. We need to give him more than one
or an option.
If that's legal. If that's recognized outside of MLS.
No, but maybe Didic actually came in saying, I'm only signing a 1-year contract. If that's the case, then you can't really blame Edmonton for that.
You might have, but if you're Edmonton, you need to, PR-wise, you need to get out in front of this and say, when the dust settles, they need to come out and say, this is why it happened this way. So if it's a free, they need to say, look, we wanted to bring him in on more. Amir wouldn't come unless he came on a 1-year deal. Because if you don't, you look very, very foolish, especially to your fans. And I mean, I'm not a huge fan of a lot of things FC Edmonton have done, both on and off the field. And you talked about he had a good year, but FC Edmonton was not enjoyable to watch, which is not something that's very new for them. They can't they got to get the PR side of this right when this ends. If they get something for him, great, celebrate that as the second player to go to MLS probably by that point. But if not, they need to show some transparency so that people understand that hopefully that they didn't drop the ball.
Yeah, I mean, You have to look at as well. He's got experience with Sporting Kansas City, although it was with Swope Park Rangers, not actually in MLS. And you have to think, was it wise that they let him go? But you have to also remember as well that he counted as an international for any American team with being Canadian, because he didn't come through an academy, etc., etc. So I mean, that's gone against him, and possibly he maybe just wanted to go to the CPL for a year just to put himself back in the shop window, and he has most certainly done that. But here's a question for you. If he was to come to Vancouver, does he come as a starter? And if he comes as a starter, where does he slot in? If he doesn't come as a starter, is this actually setting back his development? And would he not be better staying in the CPL and getting those regular minutes, or being in the higher environment? Is that going to help develop him?
I think being in the higher environment, being in a place where, and again, I don't want to be disparaging of CPL teams, but their training facilities aren't, like, we talk about the Whitecaps. The Whitecaps do have one of the best training facilities in, if not just in Canada and all of North America. That alone will help him out, the knowledge and everything. And maybe he signs for the Whitecaps for a 1-year deal, and he wants to show something and then move on from there. So I think this is a good, when the iron's hot and you got a national team call up and everything, you got to strike and you got to move up somewhere. You just can't be stagnant. You have to show movement, even if it means that a year down the road you're going to move back to down a level. You have to show something, so you got to take a chance.
Yeah, I agree with you in principle, Steve. I think that you see this with even higher level players in football, right? They get an offer to go to a big club where they're not guaranteed to start, which Amir Didic will not be guaranteed to start in Vancouver in any way, shape, or form. But you go there to challenge yourself, to see if you can make the breakthrough, and to see if you can move on to another level. So I think that's what he's doing, but. The thing that you also have to be cautious of, if you're Amir and his people, is this is different than signing with the CPL, where it's easy to get away from. This is one of the negative things from a player movement side for MLS, where the contracts with the options, and when you go to MLS, they like to sign a 4-year deal, X number of years plus X number of years options. And so if they said to him, "Hey, we'll give you 1 + 3," I'd be a little bit wary of that. If he could got a 1 + 1 or something, maybe that would have been more of a fit. But we won't know that for a little while. But if it all shakes out that way, well, we won't know. But I think both of you. I hope for him to be able to continue to develop for his own personal benefit and for the national team.
Now, question to you guys. You guys watch a lot of CPL and obviously Cavalry and everything. Would you have taken Didic over Zator, or where do you fall in there?
Well,
if you wanted to do that, I know we're going to talk about it later, but Waterman too. Where would you slot these three guys?
For me, out of those three, I'd have taken Zator on the season that he had. Waterman's got a bit more versatility because he can play DM. He can also play as a fullback. Zator, for me, had such a good season. And I know Didic has been brought into the Canadian national team, but I'd have picked Zator. You've got to remember, just going quickly back to what Zach said, John Herdman has talked a lot in the last year about players need to think where they're going if they want to play for the national team, and they have to be in environments where they're going to be starting. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. I mean, what about you, Zach? Would you have picked Didic, Zator, Waterman?
It's a great question. Between Didic and Zator, I think I probably would choose Zator if you're Vancouver, because of his ability to play right back. I think he's probably a better right back than if you had to stick Didic there for some reason. And so he's versatile in that way. So between those, I would take them. Waterman, it's the non-starter because he's the first CPL player to be transferred from CPL to MLS, and he's gone to Montreal, which I'm so happy for the guy. I spent probably the majority of my life living in Langley, where he grew up. He played for Aldergrove Youth Soccer. He played for Langley United. He played for Surrey United. Those are the places where he developed. He spent 4 years at Trinity Western in Langley, where he did most of his development. Then also a year at Kitsap and obviously TSS, and then Foothills before Cavalry. So just an interesting story of someone who's making the jump, and excited for him. But between those two, I probably would have gone Zator, but as I said earlier, I don't think he had his chance in Vancouver and apparently didn't impress enough to get maybe a second chance.
And that might play into it as well. The Whitecaps may not want to be looking to go back and revisit in a guy that they let go. So, I mean, that could come into it. But another defender that is on trial out of the 5, and this is an interesting one that kind of seems a little bit out of left field.
I feel weird when you say defender on trial. I feel like there's some kind of court case going on or something like that.
Yeah, I was wondering if we maybe sign any Germans on trial. I don't know, like Nuremberg or something like that, because they have lots of trials there, I heard. But this is a 20-year-old English/Welsh right back. He was born in England, but he's represented Wales internationally. Cole de Silva. When I was given that name, and then I googled to see who he was, an English-Welsh right back was not what I was expecting from the name Cole de Silva. He can also play left back, and he actually started his youth career as a left winger, so he's got a bit of versatility there. He came through the Chelsea ranks and was at Chelsea under 23s. They let him go in the summer of 2018. Then he moved to join Brentford's B team. Hasn't made it into their first team. He's been capped for Wales, though, at under 21 level and below. He also was capped for England at youth level as well, so he's kind of gone a little bit back and forward. He's played in the Toulon tournament for Wales under 20. His brother plays for Bristol City. Don't know anything about him, but we do need a backup right back. So, I mean, he's got a chance to come here and impress. I'm not expecting too much from him, but I mean, we'll see.
I'm wondering that this is one you have to wonder where the connection. There obviously is no connection with any of the known staff and scouting. Maybe this is one of those scouting people that we don't know saw this guy.
It seems like a weird flyer, but at least he's not like signed to before they've seen him first, signed to a contract before they've seen him firsthand. Yeah. So, yeah, let's see what happens. If something happens, nice. But if not, it's no big loss.
Well, I'm excited because he'll know what a chocolate digestive is. Oh. So I'm going to get that in early in case he disappears again. Now, moving into the midfield. And the two midfielders that are on trial are guys that I am genuinely excited about. And I'm, again, not trying to pump their tyres up too much or get too carried away. They're just having a look. But this first guy, Rodrigo da Costa.
Scottish?
Yeah, I did guess. 26-year-old Brazilian midfielder. Yay, a midfielder. He spent last season in the USL with Tulsa Roughnecks. Now, they didn't have a great season as a team. You talked about Amir Didic and Edmonton. But Da Costa was their standout guy. 9 goals, 13 assists in 33 appearances. Was with Florida National University before that. Da Costa grew up playing futsal. He started at the age of 5, then he eventually worked his way up to playing on grass in the Botafogo youth system. He comes from a footballing family. His father, grandfather and great-grandfather were all footballers.
I think that's all Brazilian family.
It might be. But, I mean, I watched his highlight reel and there was a bicycle kick goal, there was some great assists, there's some great goals.
He's got flair.
He's got flair. Woo! He looks, if it works out, one of these diamonds in the rough that Whitecaps are always looking for.
Yeah, but he's 26.
Yeah,
so that's where I'm thinking that
he didn't really decide that he wanted to be a pro footballer until later. Even at college, work came first for him.
Yeah.
And he I read a very interesting article that's on one of the websites. I tweeted it out. His father died when he was 14. And his father always took him to football practice. And then kind of after that, he lost the love of the game a little bit. So he concentrated more on his schooling, earned a scholarship to go to the US. And it was more in his kind of senior year at college that he kind of refound that love. And he had a great senior year at college and then a great first year in the USL. So yeah, he maybe is a bit of a late developer. But who cares if he can get the job done?
It sounds like a very feel-good story.
Yeah, it would be a great story for the Whitecaps.
Like he's more like a guy who, you said diamond rough, but it could be just a late bloomer, and where he like you said, found the love probably at like age 22, or I'm assuming of senior year or something like that. So he's been in USL for 4 years, 1 year. So he must have been really late going into college. So it's interesting to see where he rides, but. USL obviously not that lower level than MLS, but there is going to be a step up. So it's interesting to see where he finds his spot in MLS, especially during these friendlies.
Yeah, another player where it sounds like a reasonable kind of player to bring in as a trialist, and it sounds like there's a ceiling that could be high enough to be at the MLS level. So this merits a trial as opposed to players who maybe we've seen trial in the past. This one seems really worthy.
Now, the second midfielder is also a very interesting one. He's a Canadian guy, Abubakar Sissoko. He's the current U Sports Player of the Year, has been playing at his college soccer with Montreal Carabines. He's a senior, he's just graduated this year, played his final season. He's been with Montreal in the last 3 U Sport Championship games, winning the 2018 title here up at UBC. Now, I commentated on that tournament. I remember Sissoko well. He really stood out in that tournament, and he went on from that to have a fantastic senior year, as I said, winning the Player of the Year. Now, he's born in Mali. He's been capped by them at under-20 level. He's been here since he was 11 because his father was a diplomat. He's now in the final stages of applying for Canadian citizenship as well. Now, the interesting thing about him is in 2018, let me get my dates right, 2018, he was drafted by Forge. And then this year in the CPL draft, he was drafted by Halifax Wanderers with the view that he was going to go out and play in CPL. But now, before he even does that, he's here on trial with the Whitecaps.
Now, did he play with Forge at all last year, or did he just...
I forgot to look. I meant to look at that. To my knowledge, he didn't.
Yeah.
But, yeah, we'll have a quick check on that just now. But a very interesting proposition. I did like what I saw from him.
Yeah, but it sounded like I looked him up a little bit. It sounded like he had signed with Halifax, or I'm not sure if he actually officially signed with them.
When you draft them, you're drafted initially in a college thing, and then you get the chance to earn your contract in the preseason.
Gotcha. So they haven't signed him right off. So that's a mistake by Halifax then too.
So, but it could also be the case if the Whitecaps like him, they note that they like him, let him go and play the season in Halifax, maybe call him in the summer or next year. So I mean, that could be an option.
Well, they could also they could even. Did you mention sign him and loan him out, or just let him go?
Yeah, they could do either.
Yeah, they could do either.
Based on transfer market, I don't think he actually played for Forge because they don't even put Forge on his CV. So I'm guessing he wouldn't have appeared for them.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these college guys didn't make it through pre-season or decided when they saw what contract was getting offered for them that they'd rather kind of sit out, because that's one of the things as well. And a couple of the guys picked up injuries as well. But I mean, he looks an interesting one. There's been some rumours floating around about different players as well. There's another Korean guy, a winger, that the Whitecaps were kind of being linked with, but his club is a progressive K2 club that's apparently pushing for promotion and don't really want to let their best players leave.
Yeah.
Don't know how much is in that story. But there's not been any names out there really linking them with MLS players. Julian Gressel's a name that's been getting thrown out there. Glass City's done well and kind of stirring that up. I mean, he'd be great here. Don't know how much there is to any of those
I saw
rumours.
somewhere, was it Glass City as well, this mentioned Mark Anthony Kay somewhere? Or might have. Or I heard it too.
That wasn't really...
I don't believe that much. Until LAFC wins something, then I don't think they're going to let him go.
I think what folk are doing is they're looking at teams like Atlanta. Gressel kind of seems like he's almost surplus to requirements there.
Yeah.
LAFC, they're making some strong additions to the midfield. Now, Mark Anthony Kay played a very important role for them there. So I don't know how far down the pecking order he may have dropped. But if they keep making additions to that midfield, he is a guy that could be of interest. He spoke so highly about Mark Dos Santos when I spoke to him when he was here in March with the national team that, I mean, yeah, who knows? But there's a lot to see what's happening. It's still going to be a busy couple of weeks. I had said in last week's show I thought this week was going to be busy. It wasn't as busy as I expected, but there were some good additions. Looking forward to pre-season camp getting underway. But we did, just to finish this section up, we got a tweet in from No Name Actual who said, what do you think the big story coming out of training camp is going to be this week?
My thinking is that one of the younger players will take a huge step up, and I'm thinking George might be that guy that really impresses in this first week, and they might be talking him up to show that maybe show Jake Nowinski, or maybe they talk up Jake in order to make him more available for trade. I see a chance of Jake not being on this team by the end of training camp.
Yeah, I could see that too. I also see the some of the trialists stepping up and cutting off dresser community's hair. What the big stories of this week, I think are going to be the size of the squad. I think that's going to be one of the stories. I think hopefully the other story will be of more than one player coming in.
I'm going to make 3 predictions. I think one of them will be the trialist steps up, and I'm going to go with Da Costa because I have been pumping his tyres after saying I wasn't going to pump anyone's tyres. I'm going to say Lucas Cavallini gets injured with an eye injury from Kamiri's flying dreadlock. But I think the dreadful.
Yeah.
I do think that, sadly, the story is going to be, as Zach says, maybe the size of the squad and the future of Freddie Montero. I think that's going to be the main talking points from it, but I hope it's not. But we're going to see what happens. We might bring out a little extra podcast during the week to, if there's any good little tales. We're going to chat to a number of players this week as well for next week's show and some future shows as well. But we're going to be back talking CPL and Canadian national team next, after this.
How's it going, guys? I'm Ben Fisk. You're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
Well, I'm lost, I'm afraid. Rope tied down a leaky boat to the roof of a car on a road in the dark and it's snowing. If I'm more, then it means less. Last call for happiness. I'm your dress near the back of your knees and your slip is showing. I'm afloat in a summer parade up the street in the town that you were born in, with the girl at the top wearing tulle and a miss somewhere sash waving like the queen. Beauty's just another word I'm never certain how to spell. Go tell the nurse to turn the TV back on.
Welcome back to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio 101.9 FM. That song, Steve's selection this week.
Reconstruction Site,
yes,
by the Weaker Thans. It's a Winnipeg indie group.
So do you feel that the Whitecaps are weaker than they were a year ago?
No, I did it because of Reconstruction Site, because they were basically reconstructing their teams.
As
that was just a coincidence
just
that they're named the Wicked Thans.
Well, the CPL teams are also in reconstruction mode, and we're going to talk CPL and Canadian soccer in this part. Now, the new CPL season may be more than 3 months away, but the news and rumours coming out of it are coming very thick and fast. And let's kick things off by the news that there's an 8th team in the CPL this season. Crazy as far as I'm concerned, with 3 months to go till the season gets underway, but there's an Ottawa team. They may or may not be called Atletico Ottawa. I don't think they will be, but there are some Atletico Madrid connections. At least the owner looks like having money in both things.
Considering that it's the capital city, I was thinking Citizens, so it's something like Citizens FC or Citizens United or something like that. I don't know, or Capital FC. Do you think that'll be the name, considering how the other CPL teams are named?
Ottawa needs to have a team in the CPL. Everyone knows that. I mean, are you stunned that it's happening so close to this season?
Yeah, that does feel a little bit awkward. But like we talked about on the show previously, it's good to not have the Ottawa Fury in the Canadian Premier League, but it's good that there's a team that's in the city, and it's good to see that this is able to happen in a way like this, where OESG isn't fully involved, although they're using their stadium. It's a bit of weird. I don't know if you guys have been reading any of the articles on this. It's a little bit weird that the guy from OESG is going to be like the face of the club, like the Ottawa face of the club, but he's not doing it as OESG, which is interesting because it shows that they were fractured over this. Like there was not agreement within that group of people on how they should proceed and where they should go, because this guy has apparently been talking to the CPL for a long time.
Yeah.
And there's serious negotiations about this proposal that they're trying to move forward with has been going on since November. Which you have to believe that the possibility, the plans for this have been longer than November. Did you see also then OESG has parted ways with Julian de Guzman because he's going to obviously be a part of this because there's money for him to be made in multiple facets, like we've talked about in the past.
That's why I was always wondering why he was so upset over this and everything. He seemed like
no, but Steve, what you said about Julian is CPL would limit what he could make.
Yeah. For sure.
Would limit what he could make as the general manager of the team from OESG. That's why he didn't like it, and possibly and also because of how it would limit him financially in other ways, which we won't get into great detail of right now.
Well, we'll talk a lot more about this sort of situation as it unfolds. But there was also the announcement this week of the newest manager in the league. Pacific FC have a new head coach. It's a former Whitecap. I know, it's shocking there's a connection there with Pacific FC. It's Pamaduka. It's Pamaduka. It's Pamaduka. It's Pamaduka. It's Ka. Doo-doo. 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 Great song. Hope that really catches on over in Victoria.
It's a slam over song.
Let's talk a bit.
It's thrilling news.
Yes. We can keep playing our thriller thing that he did. Very good, Steve. I was actually going to play that as the intro to this part because we were meant to actually speak to Pa on Friday and it kind of fell through on us twice. Some things happened that we never got to do it. And he's away back to Holland right now, so we will be speaking to him when he comes back. But his coaching credentials, he was involved with the residency here. He actually took one of the residency groups, I think it was the U18s, to the residency finals, the USSDA finals one week because the head coach, Rich Fagan or Adam Day, because I can't remember which one it was that they took, was away doing coaching at the time, exams. So he's involved with that. He was involved with WFC2, then went to Cincinnati where he was also the assistant first team coach with Alan Koch, and then stayed there after Alan went as well. He's always come across to me as a player who's enjoyed mentoring the younger kids. Winds them up. We saw that in a lot of the pre-season stuff. Hard taskmaster as well, but fair, giving a lot of praise, giving them a lot of advice. He was a great influence on Fonzie. And there was a while where Pa was his driver and was driving him about. And there was an interview that we did with Pa when they were training at Swangard one day, and I've told the story before. And like Fonzie just came and sat down beside us, like not even thinking that we're doing an interview, and he's just sitting listening in, and he was just so enraptured by everything that Pa said, and he just loved to listen to him. And I think a lot of the young guys did, and he's got that experience. I think it's a great appointment. I think it's going to be great for the young guys at Pacific. He knows some of them already. He's going to be a guy that can use what he's done in the game to bring talent there. I'm very excited by this.
So you're saying that Alfonso would give a ringing endorsement to Pa Maduka to become the Pacific FC coach?
Most definitely. And who knows, maybe we'll get him here on loan if things don't work out in Bayern. And by here I mean Victoria.
That's not funny. No, I'm super happy for Pa. He is a quality fellow. When he came here, I know people were like, "Oh, he came from Portland," or whatever. People like who have a similar view to they have a problem with him. No, because I don't dislike Portland the way I do Seattle. But he also went out of his way to connect with supporters, to become integrated into the culture, to give his all for the club, and was just really, really great with supporters. Always made you feel a part of things. Even later on, when he became sort of like, he was like a extra coach for Robbo for a while there. Like there was never, it felt like he was like interning or something as a coach, but he was like one of the hardest working dudes there. Like he was always the first one out, always the last one to go in as a coach. And so you could tell he was just like working so hard. And so I think he's going to work hard in the same way as he has in the past when he goes to Pacific. And I think it's very, very exciting opportunity for him and for Pacific as a club.
I definitely think he's going to really connect with the supporters there. He's going to help grow the game there as well. And yeah, I think it's a good appointment.
And when you say that would be an opposite of what the previous coach offered,
he didn't come across as the most charismatic.
Yeah, that's
coach,
what I mean.
yes.
So they're going for something else.
Yeah, and Pa's going to be very vocal on the touchline, so that's going to be an interesting one to watch as well. Looking forward to eventually catching up with him and sitting down. I have a lot of time for him. We had a lot of great chats when he was here, both like recorded and just like chatting at training as well. So I mean, he's a great guy. Now, Pacific re-signed 2 players this week: goalkeeper Nolan Worth and centre-back Lucas McNaughton. It's going to be interesting though to see who Pa does bring in, what kind of way he wants his team to play. Are they going to be like a defensive team as a defender as a coach? Because they do need to shut up shop a little bit there, because that was one of their big failings last year. He's worked with Terran Campbell before, so that's going to be good for him offensively wise. But I'm curious who he's going to bring in.
It's it's good that they signed Nolan Worth, considering Sean Melvin's definitely not coming there because he's going to switchbacks.
There is one Pacific player whose future is up in the air, and that is Ben Fisk. He is apparently still in talks with Pacific, but he is also in demand elsewhere in the CPL. It looks like he's definitely staying in CPL. The chatter on Twitter over the last couple of days was that it might just not be in Pacific. I'd be sad to see him move on, because he really seemed to embrace being at Pacific. And from chatting to him last year, it was great to see him back, having family and friends over watching him. But you didn't feel Pacific utilised him the way that they should have last year. He still had a not bad season, but they could have been so much better, I think. But I think with Pa coming in, that might be the thing that tips him into staying in Pacific, because I think he's going to like what Pa might do to that team.
Yeah, he played a lot last year when he wasn't fully fit also, which was in part due to his willingness to play in those situations, but also because there were so many other players injured for Pacific. I hope he goes back. I hope that for him. I hope that for the club. I hope that for the supporters. And I do see Pa maybe being able to get more out of him. But it'll be interesting to see. Can I talk about who else is maybe? So one of the other former Whitecaps there's lots of talk around is Marco Bustos, right? And what's going to happen with him? Because there's lots of discussions going on right now about when you talk to people in Winnipeg and you talk to other people around the league, there's lots of interest in him. There's a high demand for him, I think, around the league as well. And although he's from Winnipeg and you could see him staying there for a number of reasons, going to a place like Pacific doesn't seem out of the question, especially with someone he knows there. Now, I don't know for sure his relationship with between Pa and Marcos, like the way we knew about like Pa and Alfonso or whatever. But I think Pa being there will either be Marcos wanting to go there or Marcos not wanting to go there. I think it'll be pretty clear in his mind. But it'll be interesting to see where he lands up, because he didn't light the league on fire, but he made significant contributions to the league.
And he came halfway through the year too, I think, or late in the year.
And in his limited time, he stood out as an offensive player with some flair,
and the best player on the team, I thought, Valors.
Yeah, I mean, I would
with
say
some
that.
question, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, his future is certainly talked about. I mean, again, the internet murmurs have been that some of the bids out there could make him the highest paid player in CPL, which is kind of crazy in some ways when you look at some of the other names that is in CPL. But I mean, good luck to him if you can get a deal like that, because we don't know what the highest paid player in CPL could be. It could just be like 60,000.
Yeah, but the thing is the whole thing about him is that if like a stronger team picks him up, that strong team, like say a Cavalry or something like that, and they bring him into this lineup, right? I'm just saying, say Cavalry brings him, or Forge or something, they bring him into that lineup, he actually does really well, maybe leads them to a title or something like that. That's a potential sell-on.
Yeah.
That's where they would want. That's why probably because they see some potential in a sell-on.
I think Cavalry is the one place I've heard that is not interested in it.
Well, no, I'm just saying using like a strong team as an option where they could sell him on afterwards.
Well, just to wrap this section up with some national team chat. There was 3 friendlies played in the last week or so for Canada. 2 4-1 wins over Barbados. 1-0 loss to Iceland. El Salvador just lost 1-0 to Iceland as well. So after all those things have kind of shaken out, Canada's pretty much back to where they started in terms of the Hex qualification. They may have closed a point or two on El Salvador, but I don't think it's really been that much. John Herdman's indicated that more friendlies are going to be coming in this March window. Maybe here, who knows, that would be fantastic. But I have a feeling they might be on the road or in the States for that. Now, there was some interesting murmurs on Twitter over the weekend that It didn't say who it was, I don't think, but one of the candidates for the CSA presidency is wanting to discuss Herdman's position at the next CSA meeting. I mean, surely too soon for that.
I think so, and that would be a bad precedent to set. Well, it's kind of been a bad precedent where coaches are ousted way too quickly. They're not able to build a program.
So I think it's okay to question the hiring process that brought about John Herdman, right? Like there was problems with what's his name, Oz, the Chilean, the last coach, Octavio Zambrano. There was issues there. There was clearly issues. We've all heard different things behind the scenes about things that he was not doing certain things well or right. Some might say. So it was understandable. From the things I've heard, it was understandable why he was let go. However, the process of bringing in John Herdman was, I think, kind of an internal, kind of automatic, no kind of interview process, no open kind of process. It was just like, here, let's just switch him over from the women's team. So I think it's fair to have a discussion or criticize or have concerns about that. But this is crazy talk. Like I mean, maybe this is someone who wants to be president who's trying to bring up an issue for them to look like they have something to talk about, or a wedge issue for them in trying to become president or whatever. Like I don't know all the details of that, but this is, I agree with you, Mike. This is far, far too soon. I mean, if you, after qualifying for 2022 happens, and if Canada doesn't make it, or if Canada ends up being most likely in this second bracket thing where they got to go through all these teams, if they don't get to like the end of that, like if they don't come out of that, sure, maybe, or they come out of that.
And if you don't see any building blocks or whatever, and the thing is, after 2022 qualifying, I agree with you that there's going to be other coaches around the world that know they got an automatic bid. They want this Canada job because they want to do something in like a home country or whatever.
Totally.
Yeah, so I can see that. Like, who was it? Was it Gus Hiddink that took over Korea or something like that? That was, he went after that, even though what has Korea done before that, right? They hadn't done anything, but he got into the World Cup, got this team all the way to the thing. So I see some coaches, big name coaches, wanting to coach Canada just for that.
Yeah, so that's a fair time to have the discussion. But now that's crazy talk, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, if Canada doesn't make the World Cup, fair enough. That is the time to look at how that whole campaign's gone and whether Herdman is the right man to take them into the 2026 World Cup. And Steve makes a very good point. It's going to be a very sought-after job.
Yeah.
It's going to put you on the world
Even
stage.
Though I think Herdman should keep it, considering he listens to our podcast. So I don't want him to lose the job, because I fear we'll lose a listener then.
True. Be down to 4.
Yeah.
That'd be terrible. But I mean, the pressure's on him, undoubtedly, and he has to show improvements with this squad and this talented group of players that he has at his disposal. He has to show that Canada has taken steps forward. So we'll see how that goes. But we will be back with the last part of tonight's show after this.
Hi, I'm Rainer Pozo, and you're listening to the AFTN Show.
See what's become of me. Time, see what's become of me. While I looked around for my possibilities, I was so hard to please. Look around, leaves are brown, and the sky is a hazy shade of winter. Hear the Salvation Army band. Down by the riverside is bound to be a better ride than what you got planned.
Welcome back to the final part of tonight's AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio 101.9 FM, broadcasting from the unceded Musqueam territory at the University of beautiful British Columbia. Tell us what that song was, Steve.
That was Hazy Shade of Winter by the Bengals. back in the 80s song, a little 80s music
Yeah.
there. And I thought because the winter was the last week was so crazy, I thought put them went up with that.
That's good.
Yeah.
Plus, it's going to be a manic Monday because
sure, yeah.
I have to stay up until who knows when to get this podcast edited. Training kicks off at 10 a.m. tomorrow, so yeah.
Well, you don't have to be there right at 10, do you?
No.
Or?
Although it might be the beep test. I'd like to see that. I always enjoy the beep test. Something else I always enjoy, of course, is wavelength. And it's that time of the episode to get to our wavelength. This month, we are playing songs with an FA Cup theme. And we're going back to 1988 for this one. The FA Cup final song from the Liverpool squad. Didn't work for them. They lost, of course, in that famous final to Wimbledon. Mon the Wombles. But this is another one of those iconic FA Cup songs that I just assume, of course, that everyone knows these kind of songs. But it turned out a lot of folk had never heard Aussie's Dream that we played last week. And I don't know how well known this song's actually going to be anyway. This is Anfield Rap.
Liverpool FC is hard as hell. United, Tottenham, Arsenal. Watch my lips and I will spell. Cause they don't just play but they can rap as well. Liverpool FC.
My idea was to build Liverpool into a bastion of invincibility, you know, like Napoleon had that idea, he would conquer the bloody world.
But there's nothing down.
The rest of the lads ain't got it sussed.
We'll have to learn them to talk like us.
Well, I'm rapping now, I'm rapping for fun. I'm your goalie, the number one. You can take the myth, don't call me a clown. Any more lip and you're going down.
Alright, Ace, we're great, me and you.
But the other lads don't talk like we do.
No, they don't talk like we do, do-de-do-la. We'll have to learn them to talk proper.
Are always yapping. I'm gonna show you some serious rapping. I come from Jamaica, my name is Don Bonnis. When I do my thing, the crowd go bananas. How's he doing the Jamaica rap?
He's from just south of the Watford Gap.
He gives us stick about the north of divide.
Cause they've got the job.
Yeah, but we got the side.
Well, I came to England looking for fight. So come on, Kenny man, give us a game. Cause I've sat on the bench, paid my dues, my fees. I'm very big down under, but my wife disagrees.
They've won the league, bigger stars than Dallas. They've got more silver than Buckingham Palace. No one knows quite what to expect when the red machine's in full effect. Well, Steve McMahon sure can rap. It's about time he had an England cap. So come on, Bobby Robson, he's the man. Cause if anyone can, Macca can. Macca can. Macca can. Macca can. Macca can.
Liverpool FC is hard as hell.
My idea was to build Liverpool up and up and up until eventually they would be untouchable. Everybody would have to submit. Given.
Well, Highland lads.
Okay, the new.
And there's 4 of us.
And only 2 of you.
So if you want new trouble,
And you don't want to slap.
you better teach us the Anfield rap. Don't forget us, Paddy, and meet a great day. I know I'm from London, mate, so what's your game? Well, you two scousers, you're always talking. Well, we'll just let our feet do the talking. Our lads have come from all over the place.
They talk that funny, but they play that great.
So now we gotta learn them to talk real cool. The song you gotta learn if you live in the pool.
That's unbelievable, it really is. I think they should stick to playing football. Terrible. What do you think, Kenny? Oh, yeah!
The sounds of 1988 and the Liverpool FA Cup final squad with Anfield Rap. Some folk may say Anfield crap after listening to that song. It was, I think it's iconic, but there was a BBC reporter in 2012 who said it was the worst offender of those kind of songs. But
what year did it come out?
1988.
Yeah, because there was a lot of teams doing their rap songs on this side of the ocean.
Oh.
The NFL teams, the Bears did a rap. The Chicago Bears. That was the most memorable one out of all. Yeah.
There's some Vancouver connections in the song as well. Former Whitecap Bruce Grobbelaar was on the record, and it mentioned Bobby Robson. He wasn't obviously on the record, but he was here with Vancouver Royals. But there's some big names on that record. You had John Barnes, you had Kenny Dalglish, Alan Hansen, Steve Nicol, a guy that we're not that fond of really here.
Oh, you're not that fond
of. And some great stuff from Brian Moore, the commentator, rapping as well. I like it. We've got one more FA Cup song to come next week. Ooh, can it be worse than that? Yeah, very possibly. Anyway, now it's time for BC Soccer Web headlines. BC Soccer Web headlines is brought to you in partnership with bcsoccerweb.com, your one-stop site for local, national and international news, stories, features and a lot more besides. Make it part of your daily routine, morning, noon or night. Check out bcsoccerweb.com. And that's exactly what Steve was doing all week long. That's why he was on the computer. Honestly, Mrs. Pander, that's why he was on the computer. What was catching your weepy eyes this week, Steve?
Okay, so the first story, we talked about the Canadian national team in the previous segment. One Soccer, and obviously CPL, One Soccer has got the rights to the CONCACAF Gold Cup, taking over for TSN. They've acquired exclusive rights to the 2021 and 2022 editions of the Gold Cup. They'll be offering exclusive live coverage of all 31 matches at least the 2021 World Cup. I'm not sure about the 2023. So what do you guys think? Another feather in the cap of One Soccer?
Now, as someone that has One Soccer, yeah, great. I'll still get to see the matches, and there's less and less reasons for me needing to keep TSN at this rate. AEW is probably the main reason for me right now.
Yeah,
I can find out other ways, so that's fine. But from growing the game in the country, having it all exclusively on a streaming service, although there's lots of talk that One Soccer is actually going to be a cable channel that you can get as well, but you still have to pay for it. I just think these things should be more on free-to-air if you're going to grow the game.
Especially national teams. That's what
Someone argued that watching the Gold Cup doesn't grow the game, though. No, it's good for One Soccer. Hopefully that continues to help the I hate this term, but the properties they have grow so that they become more popular and more people will subscribe, whether that's on their current form of online or, like you said, Michael, potentially on TV. But yeah, it is weird having national team games in Canada now or continue to cost money because, yeah, it does feel like it should be something that, and I don't know how it is in all the countries around the world, but it's something it feels like you would want on like the CBC, all the games on the CBC free to air. That doesn't obviously make sense for the CSA and their partners, but that would be nice.
Another story, obviously we're talking about the Gold Cup. One player who might be at that 2021 World Cup is Chicharito.
You keep saying World Cup.
Oh, so I say Gold Cup, I meant to say, sorry. Chicharito might be at that Gold Cup. He won't have to travel that far either. He's going to be meeting, he's rumored to be meeting with Galaxy officials to seal a deal that's going to be worth about $10 million. He's moving over from Spain, and it's rumored to be a 3-year deal. And then it's also reported that he has given a yes to the Galaxy. It's more the paperwork between the two teams to figure out what the final rate's going to be.
It's a good move. Taps into, I guess, the Spanish-speaking market there as well. Interesting to see the battle between Vela and him. You had Vela and Zlatan last year. They needed to get a big-name striker in. as a West Ham fan, he didn't really light it up in his time at West Ham. So are his best days behind him? Will he think MLS is an easier proposition than, say, the Premier League? I guess we'll soon see.
No, and the thing is, I think he was ousted out of the top spot, the striker spot on Sevilla as well. So it's interesting. Obviously, that's maybe why he's moving on, because he just doesn't see a role for him there. Now, across town, Bradley Wright Phillips is getting ready to train with LAFC. He was not retained at the Red Bulls. He has scored 108 goals since joining the MLS in 2013, but his production dipped last year, going from 20 goals the previous year to 2 goals last year in 24 appearances. They really want to get him in because of the whole CONCACAF thing. They want more depth and everything, so that's the biggest reason why they want to bring him in.
Great addition for them. He's the kind of guy I'd have loved the Whitecaps to have somehow made that happen and bring him here. He's done so well in MLS. He's a proven scorer and he's a proven performer.
But he's 35.
Yeah, but the Whitecaps need a little bit of older mentality in there, I feel.
It's a potentially scary signing for the Goats if that happens, because he would bring them. Like, he would be an amazing depth striker for them, right?
Yeah.
They're going to be playing so many games this year.
We're talking about Montero being a luxury for the Whitecaps on the bench. That would be a luxury with Bradley Wright Phillips.
Yeah, it would be crazy. You would see his goal. I mean, I'm not I'm not one to guarantee things, but I think you would see his goal production. If he would to be like their second or third or whatever striker, up front, like you got to see him scoring like 10 goals at least
for sure. Now, we talked about Bradley Wright Phillips being 35. Flip those numbers over, and we're going to talk about now the oldest footballer in with a pro football team, Kazuyoshi Miura, signing on for his 35th season. He does turn 53, like we said, next month. He's been recognized by Guinness World Book of Records as both the oldest player and the oldest goal scorer in professional football history. Little bit of information. Currently he signed a 1-year contract with Japanese outfit Yokohama FC, who he's been with since 2005. They've just been promoted to the top flight. At 15, he traveled to Brazil and in 82 and was awarded a pro contract at Santos, Pele's old team. And he made his first appearance in 86 at the age of 19. Since becoming a pro, he's played with 14 clubs, scoring 185 goals in 739 matches, 55 goals in 89 caps with the national team. He scored 14 goals in the 98 World Cup qualifying, but was surprisingly omitted from the roster. So he didn't actually make the World Cup. That's one thing that's missing from his resume.
And by signing this 1-year extension, keeps him as the oldest footballer in world football, depriving 43-year-old Ali Adnan of getting that record.
Yeah, we were joking on WhatsApp earlier how Michael, you're always joking about playing for the Whitecaps. This just gives you hope. Hopefully, maybe you can talk to MDS.
Well, they're short of numbers.
Exactly.
I could fill in one of these games.
And you like San Diego?
Oh, I love it. Is there not a Lego thing or something down there?
There is Legoland. Yeah.
Yeah.
Carlsbad, just north of San Diego.
I don't want to know about Carlsbad. He's gone to Australia now. That's none of our concern. So, just before we go to bed, let everyone know what you learned this week and where they can find you online.
Well, what I learned was that if Michael was Meryl Streep and he had Sophie's choice, he would choose Zach over me. He would send me to the chamber, essentially, even though Zach is German and he probably would have been okay not to go to there.
Oh, my. And where can people find you online?
Oh, you can find me on Twitter at WhiteCapsFeed.
Okay. For me, it's at Zachary AM, and the thing I learned on this show is that Michael is a crazy...
You learned that this week?
I can't say what I want to say. Michael's just... some of his opinions are...
Mother figure.
That's not what I was going to say. It's minifigure. That's what. Yeah, minifigure. Michael, I said Carlsbad, not Carlsbad. Anyways, Carlsbad. You should go check it out. Michael doesn't know where Legoland is. That's what I learned on this episode. Michael, where can people find you?
You can find me checking out Legoland. I thought it was in Denmark.
There's one there too.
Oh.
Denmark is the main headquarters.
Billund.
Yeah.
But anyway, you can find me online at AFTN Canada, on Twitter, AFTN Canada, on YouTube. Give us a like, subscribe, and follow. And on Instagram at AFTN Soccer. We'll be back next week with the last show before I head off for a couple of weeks back to the UK. Until then, thanks for listening. Take care, and Mono Whitecaps pre-season training camp.
Going to your first match is an experience you never forget. The atmosphere of what's going on around the pitch looks beautiful, and you always look and go, wow, I'd love to play here one day. If you get the bug, it's going to stay with you for life.
10 minutes left. Yeah, but there's still some time. It's not the final score. We need more than the numbers we're given. Show us you live and breathe the game. You're more than a name. That's what we came for. We can bring you more than the score. Every story. Let's take this thing off of the field into the real world, away from the numbers, away from the numbers.